Father Chereda and his team began work about 3 years ago in 2011. They began by sending a questionnaire to all the regions, and the regions were supposed to pass this down to the delegates. And from the feedback received from all over the world, the first draft was composed. This draft was sent to experts at the Salesian University, experts in canon law, psychology, Salesian matters, spirituality. And from the feedback received, a second draft was composed. I believe this was the draft that you received for your discussion in 2013. Okay. Anyway, so with that presentation, let's follow what the PowerPoint is saying. The aim of this document to offer criteria and norms for Salesian personal accompaniment. And then it acknowledges that there is already something in the ratio, in chapter 4 of the ratio, but now it is a question of deepening, developing, and sometimes revising what the ratio already says about Salesian personal accompaniment. This was a need felt by the Rector Major and his council, and this document was asked to meet this kind of need, to deepen, develop, and sometimes revise what the ratio says about Salesian personal accompaniment. Can we go forward? The process of formulation, I've tried to say this, mandate of the Rector Major, then an initial moment of, could you go further? Yes, an initial moment of gathering feedback from all over the world. The next slide, please. Discussions in the CRFs, contributions, the first draft in April 2013, study in the formation department. I've gone through all this already, please go forward. The second draft sent to you for a study by the formators, possibly by provincials and their councils, and then a third draft which was presented, making use of all these contributions. This was presented, please go to the next slide, presented to the Rector Major and his council in the winter session of 2013-2014. In actual fact, it was presented in January 2014, just a month before the general chapter began. I believe after intense discussion, we are still with that previous slide. After intense discussions in the council, the Rector Major came to the decision not to pass the document. The main reason being that it would be a document born a month before the general chapter. So he did not want it to be a dead document, It would not receive the attention that it needed, because naturally the general chapter document would take first place. So they decided not to pass the document at that point. All the same, from the suggestions that were made in the council, a fourth draft was prepared, and that is what you have in hand right now for reading. A fourth draft, not yet passed, but why are we therefore trying to examine this fourth draft? Because one reason was that Father Chereda said there was not enough time for the provinces to study the third draft. Feedback was requested somewhere in July, and by November the contributions were expected back. Some contributions were made, not all provinces were able to give the feedback required. So that is one reason. The other reason is that we still want to hear all the regions now about the content of the document. Are you happy with the document as it stands? And what do you suggest about what to do with the document? Is it ready for presentation to the Rector Major? Do you think we need a longer time? Do you think we need a different kind of process? So these are the two things we are asking you about. What do you think about the document, and what do you think about the process of formulation of the document? If you feel this document is ready enough, if you feel this document is owned by you, then maybe it's time to present it to the council. Okay. I think from my point of view at least, the important thing is not how fast this document gets passed and presented, but rather the fact that it is owned by us as much as possible. Us meaning not only the delegates, but also all the confreres who are involved with the work of formation. This is very large kind of request, of course, but it all depends on us. If we feel fine, we have discussed this enough, things are ready, we can go ahead and pass. If you feel we need a longer process of owning the document, we could even look at that. Okay, we have presented this already to 4 other regional commissions before. Now yours is about the 5th one. The next few slides talk about the changes in the document between the second draft and the 4th draft. Okay, there are a few changes. The main change seems to be that the chapter 8 on personal accompaniment and ongoing formation has been dropped completely. There are a few other changes, but this is something that we will have to see as we go forward with the document. With this, I stop my presentation of the document. I don't want to take too much time on this. Any questions about this first element? Father?
Why dropped the chapter 8?
Why it was dropped? Chris, could you reply to that?
Because the chapter 8 was about what do you call it, ongoing formation. Many of the things regarding ongoing formation and regarding personal accompaniment in ongoing formation were practically overlapping with the chapter about personal accompaniment in initial formation. The principles remain the same. There's no big change regarding personal accompaniment, whether it's done with those initial or those in ongoing formation. The needs may be different. The process may be a little different. The content is different. But basically we're talking of the same reality on both sides. So there was an overlap of the same material in 2 chapters. We felt there was no point in repeating it a second time. So we integrated some changes that were there into the section on accompaniment and dropped the whole thing on ongoing to avoid duplication of the same topic twice. That's the main reason. See, topics like the scrutiny don't enter into ongoing formation. Some of the other topics, but the topic of personal accompaniment, spiritual direction entered. So we said, let's keep that there and just adjust things that require some references to ongoing formation. And we dropped that chapter. Anyway, let's see what you feel.
We could discuss this point when we...
If you still feel that we should bring it back, we can still bring it back if possible.
Some people feel that the visibility of this chapter is still important, even though it is a repetition. But we could discuss this. Any other questions about the presentation or the point at which the document has arrived? I think we should be clear that this is not yet a document that has been passed. Okay, it is still in draft condition. Okay, may I go on to chapter 1? Now I must apologize here, I don't have a PowerPoint for chapter 1, but this chapter deals with the Salesian identity. It's entitled Salesian Identity. What it does is to present the mind of Don Bosco and the Salesian tradition on the topic of personal accompaniment. Okay? Yeah, it's not there on the PowerPoint. So if you don't mind, you'll have to listen to me talking. What is the mind of Don Bosco? This is clear. Don Bosco was himself confessor, spiritual guide, rector, superior of the whole community. And it is also clear that he imagined his rectors to be also the same. Superiors, guides of the whole community and confessors. Okay. In the first draft of the constitutions that he wrote, he wanted the rendiconto to be a manifestation of conscience. We are discovering more and more that Don Bosco had a very strong Jesuit influence in the Convitto Ecclesiastico. At any rate, he preserved their tradition of the manifestation of conscience. But already at that time, the Vatican objected to the manifestation of conscience. They said, please make your manifestation restricted to external forum affairs only. So after some dialogue, Don Bosco gave in and he said, okay, the rendiconto will restrict itself to the external forum. But at that time, the Vatican did not question his figure of the rector as the confessor, the usual, habitual, ordinary confessor of the house. So Don Bosco happily seems to have said, okay, the rendiconto remains external forum, but the superior will also be the confessor, so there is no problem. Okay. So this was the constitutions that were passed. We come to after Don Bosco. You know that in the lifetime of Don Rua, one of the major crises that he underwent was 1901, when the Vatican said superiors will not be the ordinary confessors of their subjects. Don Rua, with all his fidelity to the Pope, also had to struggle with his fidelity to Don Bosco, and he struggled quite a lot till in the end he was told in no uncertain terms to accept the ruling. What happens with this? The rector can no longer be the habitual confessor in the house. A new figure enters the Salesian work, the confessor, new and respected. And the rector undergoes his first major crisis. What is the rector meant to be? Perhaps we are still feeling the effects of this crisis, If he is not confessor, what is he supposed to be? The general chapters that come after this try their best to clarify the figure of the rector. They say, for example, the rector in our houses is like the spiritual director in the seminaries. The confessor will not be called the spiritual father. The rector is the spiritual guide of the whole community. Eventually, the 19th general chapter comes to this formulation with which we are familiar. The rector is the spiritual guide that is proposed to the confreres, not imposed. Following the canon law of 1917 and 1983, the constitutions and the chapters gave that freedom to the confreres to choose their spiritual directors. But I think it was the 19th general chapter that used the word, the proposed spiritual guide for all the confreres. Our constitutions, the final text that we have in our hands, respects the canon law and says the confreres go to the rector for their friendly chat, in which they talk about their life and their activity, and if they so wish, also matters of conscience. You know that the regulations talk about the rector as ordinarily the spiritual guide of confreres in initial formation. This is in the regulations. Okay. The ratio uses the word, the rector is the spiritual guide proposed but not imposed on the confreres in initial formation. So this is where we stand right now. The constitutions use this language of ordinarily the rector is the spiritual guide of confreres in initial formation. The ratio says the rector is the spiritual guide proposed but not imposed on confreres in initial formation. Maybe we should also keep in mind already this which Chris will say when he presents the friendly chat. This language of proposed, not imposed is very clear for the first 4 phases of formation, okay, up to practical training. In the area of specific formation, the ratio still leaves things open, already begins to leave things more open. It does not talk about the rector as a proposed spiritual guide in the area of specific formation. Okay. So this is where we are with chapter 1. It is a presentation of Don Bosco's mind and of the developments after Don Bosco. The text does use the words that the Code of Canon Law encourages people to go to their superior for guidance. Here is something that we could examine a little better. The text does not exactly say recommends and encourages. It gives a liberty to the confreres to approach their superiors for spiritual guidance. This much for chapter 1. Okay. I think we could go on and present already chapter 2 on the friendly chat, and then we have time for reading. Tomorrow we have 2 sessions. One will probably be for spiritual accompaniment and the other one for the friendly, for the psychological
and
scrutinies. So those 2 parts we reserve for tomorrow. So,
Mon, did you send the text to them? The text
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Could you open up the text you have received from Brother Mon? It's the talk with the superior, the friendly talk with the superior. document is criteria and norms, and inside there you'll find on page 12, friendly talk with the superior. I'll just take you to this section rather rapidly.
Everybody has the document. Anyone who doesn't have? I sent it to your email. You don't have Paragon?
Not open.
Not open. Can I also send it? I sent in 2 forms, no? PDF and Word.
Do you have it?
You have it printed. Okay, yeah, that's the one. The one I sent. It's all right. I'll listen.
Shall I carry on, or you want to
Yes.
say? Yeah. So you could follow me with the text that you have. I'm skipping paragraphs 20 and 21. They talk about the importance of the friendly talk, what Don Bosco said, what Ricaldoni said. I'm going to 22. And I'm talking about the problem we face today. In the congregation, we have noticed there's a fall in the practice of the friendly talk between the conference and the rectors. All over the congregation, there has been a fall. And why? Part of the reason is because rectors are overburdened with a lot of work. Another reason is also they don't pay much attention to their role. They're caught up with management of the institution, and they are very hardly seen and felt as fathers, brothers and friends. That is very important for the friendly talk. When you see the rector as a father, brother and friend, it changes everything. If they're seen as managers, it's a different story. And also third reason is because rectors very often feel unprepared for the job of rector. So that's the reason why we're having a bit of a crisis regarding the talk with the superior. Right, I'm going down to the next page, figure of the rector. I'm not going to spend time. Here you find everything explained. What do you mean by father? What do you mean by brother? What do you mean by friend? You have 2 or 3 paragraphs explaining all this. I'm going to paragraph 25. Paragraph 25. While he is a father, brother and friend, the Constitution says he is endowed with responsibility and authority. And the words are, paragraph 25, second line, he has a direct responsibility towards each confrere. He helps him realize his own personal vocation and carry out the work entrusted to him. Notice that direct responsibility for each one's vocation, constitutions. And there's another article which says he's first in order of responsibility for its religious life, its apostolic activities, and the administration of its courts. He's responsible for the whole house. Responsible for each confrere, responsible for the whole community, its apostolic activities, administration. There you see, that's the authority, the role of the rector. And that explains why you have to talk with the superior. Since he's responsible to help me grow in my personal vocation, well, I open up to him. I talk to him about my vocation, how things are faring in my life, and therefore all about my life and activity comes in. And since he's responsible for the whole community, in my talk with the superior, I'll also talk about the community. Things that are not going well, things that are going well, I can offer him suggestions. There you see the meaning of the friendly talk deriving from the role of the rector. Father, brother and friend who is endowed with responsibility and authority. That's paragraph 25. Let's go down to paragraph 26, the contents, 27. What the confrere is called to share with his rector in the friendly talk is his life and activity. We use another term for this, the external forum. What would this refer to? His health, his work, study, community life, all these external things which are seen by other people, known by others, all this is life and activity. So that is a matter of the talk with the superior, life and activity. Now of course it's obvious that the things spoken of will be different according to the age of people. Say a person who's elderly will not talk about study, he'll instead talk about his health, about the problems he's facing. All this is part of his life and activity at that age of 70 or 80 or whatever. A young person doing his studies in a post-novitiate will talk about his studies, for example. It will vary, but basically that is the substance of the talk, the life and activity of a confrere. Okay. Let's go down. I'm jumping some paragraph. Go to paragraph 29. I've just said there that all this is part of what is known as the external forum. Now the second line in paragraph 29. The rector is forbidden from asking about aspects of the internal forum. During manifestations, Don Bosco recommended, be very careful not to enter into matters of conscience. The church forbids any superior to ask the other to open up his conscience. The conscience remains a sacred sanctuary between the individual and God. No one can demand, tell me about matters of your conscience. No one can demand. But, look at what is said there. A person may freely open his conscience to his rector, and he is encouraged to do so. That is a different story. The rector cannot demand, but he can freely open his conscience and share with his rector. That is allowed, and that's what the church talks about. So that's an important distinction to be made over there. All right? See, it says that the manifestation of conscience to one's rector and the consequent spiritual direction remain nevertheless, like every matter of God, a free action which the rector, in accordance with the code of canon law, can in no way require. He cannot require, but it's a free action on the part of the individual. There's a statement there which is important to the next line. The distinction between the internal and external forum does not mean total separation. What are we saying over here? See, the external forum is life and activity. The internal forum is matters of conscience, which no one knows. Things that are secret. Things I say about the way I live my chastity, for example. No one knows about it. Internal forum. There are two different things over here. Now, you can distinguish. External forum is different from the internal forum. But you can't separate them. It's not easy to separate them. Because one influences the other. I can talk about my work, external forum. But my work can be affected by the internal forum. If I'm watching pornography, it affects my external forum, affects my work. So you see, though you can distinguish the two, you really cannot separate them so very easily. And that's why sometimes when people talk with the rector, they switch from the external forum to the internal forum and back again. Because though you can distinguish them, it's not very easy to separate them really, to give a correct picture of oneself. So that's paragraph 29. Right, let's move on to something else now. I'm going to paragraph 32. Paragraph 32. What is required on the part of the rector? Just the titles, I won't explain them. The first thing required of a rector to be ready to listen. And listen a lot, please. The most important thing for rectors to listen. And that's described there. Paragraph 33. The second line is very important. The confrere feels that his rector loves him and has his interest at heart. That's very important. The confrere should say to himself, my rector loves me. When there is that kind of feeling, then it's easy for a person to open up. Not out of sense of duty, I must do it, but because he feels the rector loves him. Third thing is a suggestion that we offer, which I think is very practical. Every single day, make your confrere feel you are close to them. You know, even if it's just a word, hello, good morning, how are you? Even that. But every day, make it a point just to say a word to every confrere of your community. It goes a long way, believe me, to creating a rapport with them. The next one is important. Win the confidence of your confrere. Just because you are a rector doesn't mean to say that automatically they will open up to you and share everything. No. You have to win their confidence. The letter from Rome, 1884, Don Bosco said, familiarity leads to confidence, and confidence leads to love, and love leads to confidence. By coming close to them, by being interested in them, about their health, their life, their family, they feel that you care for them, that you love them, and love opens them up to confidence. So I think we have to learn how to earn the confidence of the people we work with. You have to earn their confidence. It's not something automatic. And that's the topic there in number 35. A rector has to make every effort to win the confidence of his confreres. And finally, number 36, give priority to your duties as a rector. In other words, the rector should give up many of the other things which have nothing to do with his rector's role. And give more time, be available always for the talk with the superior. Too many confreres complain, my rector's no time, he's so very busy, I just can't, or he's got no time to listen to me, or I can't find him at a spare moment. No, the rector needs to give this as a priority in his life. In fact, it's one of the most important duties of a rector. Next paragraph needs a little bit of careful handling, the topic of secrecy. Let me say a few things on this point here. Third line, the rector is obliged not to reveal anything, neither directly nor indirectly, for any reason and at any time, much less in the case of admissions to vows or to orders. It is almost, I wouldn't say exactly, but it's somewhat similar to the seal of confession. Whatever the rector hears in the talk with the superior, even things of the external forum, which no one knows about, he cannot reveal it to other people. For example, health belongs to the external forum. But supposing someone shares with the rector some particular sickness or psychological ailment that he has that no one knows about, the rector cannot tell it to the other people at all, no. And he'll try to help him privately, maybe send him to a psychologist or whatever. It's all internal forum. It's really external. Health is of the external forum. But the rector knows it only in talk with the superior. He cannot reveal it to anyone. So mine is a strict rule here. The rector cannot speak to the others of what has been revealed to him in the talk with the superior. Not even at the time of admissions. To speak about this with anyone else, he would need the permission of the individual himself. Let's go to the next part here. Number 38 talks about admissions. Second paragraph. Let's read those lines because those 4 lines tell you everything. For this reason, it is necessary for formation guides and those in formation to know that the information received during the friendly talk cannot be used by the rector at the time of casting his vote for an admission, even if the vote is secret, and that in admissions, the rector formulates his judgment and votes on the basis of his own observations and those of the members of the local council. Looks like something impossible, but it is possible, please. What are we saying here? At the time of admissions, the rector cannot reveal to others and cannot make use himself of the information received when he is casting his vote. So what does he make use of? He makes use of his external observations, of what the other members of the council say, which is all external forum. Together, they formulate an overall, synthesis of that person, looking at it from the point of view of work, relationships, community, and so on there. They formulate how this person stands as they see him. On that, he casts his vote, but not on what he has heard in the talk with the superior. That is almost like I said, the seal of confession cannot be made use of at all. So that's an important principle there in paragraph 38. Okay, the rest afterwards is some points here. When is the best time for it and so on there. And the last thing, number 40, reminds us we have to educate our young Salesians to the talk with the superior. Not enough to tell them the rule says so, no. Give them reasons why. And when it is a good experience, they will do it. They'll feel like going for it because it's a useful experience. They're growing through it. When it becomes a bad experience, then naturally the day they're not in formation anymore, they will not do it anymore. So much depends on building convictions and making it a good experience for them that they feel really they're profiting from. They're growing through the talk with the superior. That encourages them to do it all throughout their life. I think that's all that there is there. I try to highlight the important points in this section.